Oh, good to see you, everyone. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me. If so, please let me know over in chat. It is great to be back. It's great to be back and talking to you all. We have plenty to go over today. I'm going to do this as kind of a medley because we have DLCs, we have lack of DLCs, we just have a lot of D, a lot of L, a lot of C, and I wanted to discuss it with you all, especially because I think even for those of you who love AoE3, there are some silver linings involved that I would like to get to. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you letting me know. You can see me and you can hear me. Like I said, I'm going to be going through a bunch of news items, so to speak, but also taking the time to talk to you guys and discuss a couple other channel-adjacent topics, such as the build of the month. I'm going to wait a little bit while people are filtering in, with just a couple minutes, and then we will start talking about Age of Empires 3. Yep. But again, it is not all bad news. So let us discuss Age of Empires 3 once a few more people join. In the meantime, I will give you guys time to filter in and to say hello if you wish to say hello, to ask questions if you wish to ask questions. I'll be keeping an eye on chat while we are waiting. Eric, you said I am a few seconds too early. Does that mean there's like a delay or something like that? Or am I screwing something up? If so, I apologize. Let's see. And yeah, anyone else who is coming in, just to let you know, we are going to be starting by discussing Age of Empires 3 and going through a couple of the different major news items and some adjacent stuff, as well as some fun things, of course. I need to make a post in Discord that I am starting. Bam. Grand. And again, we will wait another moment or two before we really get into the meat of the stream. Again, that's the honest in me. Hey, yo, it's good to see you too, Ola. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Got a whole bunch of different items lined up. It's crazy just how much happened in the last, 2 months. Like, I can't imagine a worse time for me to kind of ramp down content production entirely by accident, because we had AoE3's cancellation, we have Age of Mythology DLC, we have Age of Empires 2 DLC. Oh my god, they're doing all this stuff as soon as I leave. They're like, quick, do it while Robbie is gone and fucked off. Hey there, Ace Renrold Mage, it's good to see ya. For those of you who have been wondering what the heck I've been doing, I've been working on my own game, my game Enclave, which I'm going to have a big Kickstarter for later this year. And so I've been trying to focus my attention on that rather than on the channel. But again, you will still be getting at least one video per month. Last month was kind of lame, I will admit. I do have some actual proper projects that aren't just lazy news reactions coming up in future. Eric, to be fair, AoE2 was dead for about 12 years. Totally, that is absolutely the case. Poop Lord, hey man, good to see you in chat as well. Yeah, AoE2 was dead for about 12 years, and as I will get to today, AoE3 is not dead, and I will be elaborating on that. I'll be elaborating on that in a bit. Great, so much happened in World of Age or in real life. In this case, I am referring specifically to the world of Age of Empires. Reason being is that is what the channel is nominally about. Hey, Matroid, good to see you in chat too, my friend. All right, we're going to give people another 2 minutes to jump in. Why is AoE2 dead? No, it is not. Eric was discussing how AoE2 was in the underground Voobly scene for about 12 years before returning to prominence, because I was mentioning how AoE3 is dead. Though, as I will get to, once again, AoE3 is not dead, it just is no longer going to be receiving developer DLCs, as it would seem. Though that might change. They've certainly gone back on things in the past. Hey there, Guayer, good to see ya. Hey there, Ugo Piku. It's great to see all these names and people, username handles and stuff in chat. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. Just had a moment with the expression, of course. I like Voobly. Yeah, the Voobly days were actually sick. Voobly was when I rediscovered Age of Empires way back when I was in high school? Early college. Yeah, I rediscovered Age of Empires back in early college. And that was during the, tail end of the Voobly days. Hey, Chumbeke, get some breakfast, come on right back. Starting with what grinds your gears, Megas? Yes, indeed. But as I will get to, it is not all doom and gloom. We have some rays of sunshine coming in for AoE3, even though the lack of developer support is a slap in the face. Okay, I say we start up. I will begin discussing this unfortunate topic. The fact that to our Age of Empires 3 explorers, not sure I'm a fan of that header, but whatever, after serious consideration, the DLC was cancelled. We apologize, we haven't made provided updates, blah, blah, blah. No, this is a huge disappointment, no doubt. Age of Empires team. I'm not going to relitigate the entire letter, but suffice to say, a long-promised Age of Empires 3 DLC was shit-canned, which was a tragedy. And it would seem that Age of Empires 3 is not going to be receiving substantial DLC support going forwards. I'm assuming they will still receive patches, though maybe even that is in question. A tragedy. And I do genuinely mean that. And to everyone out there who loves Age of Empires 3 and is consistently disappointed by how it is deprioritized in comparison to AoE2 and now Age of Mythology, I entirely sympathize with you. As Eric mentioned in chat earlier, AoE2, of course, went through its own dark age. And perhaps we will see the same for AoE3, where it will have this period where those who love it continue to play it, even though it does not have official support, and maybe it comes back into the spotlight in years to come. But there's no doubt that this is a slap in the face, and there's no doubt that it makes me somewhat concerned, and I will tell you a little bit about why. And this isn't just doomerism. Let's look at Steam charts. Love this website. So what you see right now, let me pull it down so that you can see it a little better, is this is the Steam charts for Age of Empires 3 DE. This is showing its player count over the course of a year. And so AoE3 is actually extremely consistent in player count. And you can see it has all these gains and losses, stoinks, whatever. But for the past year, its all-time peak was a massive peak of about 18,000. However, that was a very short blip. And for the most part, it's been extremely consistent, hovering between like 7,000 and 6,000 player count. Why is this relevant? Because this is higher than Age of Mythology, which is receiving official dev support consistently. Oh, but it's a newer game. Yes, but if all they care about is player count, then I fail to see the distinction. Age of Empires 3 has an extremely consistent and devoted player base. And more than that, it is a legacy game with a proud tradition that has an entirely underexplored competitive scene, although I think a lot of AoE3 players would say they don't really want a competitive scene. But even so, if that's something that Age of Empires team wants to prioritize, AoE3 is not something they have particularly explored that with. And so between this announcement and this graph, it left me wondering why. Is it really because the amount of dev resources that Age of Empires 3 was consuming was so intense? Or was it a matter of cutting perceived losses? Or was it a matter of trying to phase out Age of Empires 3, given that you could maybe argue Age of Mythology is a more similar experience to Age of Empires 3, and they wanted to just diversify their products? They have AoE 2, AoE 4, Age of Mythology. Those three all feel very different from each other, and Age of Empires 3 is in this uncanny middle ground between them. I don't know, and I'd love to hear what you guys think, the reasoning for this as well, because to me, it feels like a large missed opportunity where Age of Empires 3 has been very largely underexplored and underutilized by the team over the years. But I'm sure I'm not the first to say that. However, I have good news for you. I'm going to paste in chat right now a link for you all. Don't worry, it's not a bad link. Here's where it leads. To me, it leads to this marvelous page that says, please log in to access this page. It's on the Age of Empires forums, and I do not have a forum membership. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's what I get, right? However, for those of you with a forum membership, you will be able to see a entirely, I would say, an entirely exciting announcement of a mod made by our good friend Chumbeke, friend of the channel, legendary AoE3 modder, a member of the Wars of Liberty team. This is a solo project by Chumbeke, where he has created a Filipino civilization. I believe that the mod is either 95-ish% complete or completely complete. And it's going to have an official trailer. It's going to have presumably more updates. I'm not going to put words in Chumbeke's mouth, but rather than read to you this, because I have nothing to read here, I'm going to read to you a brief overview of the Filipino civilization in voiceover style, if you will. A multitude of many different kingdoms and states, the Filipinos found a shared identity under Spanish colonial rule, which they eventually overthrew. The Filipino civilization is an Asian civilization with a twist. They have wonders, a consulate, and a monastery, but they also bring a slew of new units and buildings unique to this civilization. Each Filipino wonder has a different cost and time to age up, from the humble Magellan's Cross to the exuberant Malacañang Palace. The power, cost, and age-up time of each of your wonders vary wildly, adapting to your economic necessities and rewarding you lavishly for having a robust economy. This robust economy is enabled by the unique feature of the Filipinos. Each one of your unique land military units provides 10% of the resource they don't cost to train upon being trained. The Filipino hero is the Babaylan, a combative folk priestess who can stun treasure guardians and build trade posts in town centers. Additionally, they have a charged attack, allowing them to freely stun units and healing themselves in the process. Instead of livestock pens, the Filipinos have the Quadra, which can train water buffaloes straight from the first age. Moreover, they also double as stables, allowing the early establishment of an aggressive military building that can train horsemen from Luzon and Pampanga. The Bahay Kubo is the humble dwelling of your Filipinos. Having their costs spread among food, wood, and coin, they provide 20 population slots, relieving the weight of having to focus on heavy wood production for your base building. Additionally, they boost the production of your military buildings within the range of their aura, rewarding you for clever base building. Alipines are the workers of your civilization. They behave not unlike any regular villager, however their uniqueness lays in their cost. You train them for food, wood, or coin. The end result is always going to be the same, providing further strength and flexibility to your economy. Available from the Commerce Age, the Timawa is a strong Filipino spearman from the Visayas. They can gain more range as they get upgraded, and when fighting against packed enemies, they even deal damage to units behind their primary target. The Sundalo, available just as early, is a most versatile musketeer unit, being particularly effective against cavalry in melee, but can also adapt to the situation, earning more rate of fire, armor, range, or even different damage types as you change stances. The Tirador is the elite crackshot of the Filipino army, costing a heavy sum of resources and a generous amount of population slots. They have far more range than any other infantry unit in the game, and they can make sure to deal with any enemy target on foot that might get into their sights before they even know what hit them. The Magsabil are unique Filipino infantry units only available through the home city. This shock infantry unit can easily close the gap and deal with enemy skirmishers and artillery, having sworn an oath to fight to the death. Receiving damage only steals their resolve, and as such, they attack faster the more damage they have taken. Lantakas are cheap early cannons that can deal with enemy infantry in the early game, but as the game progresses and they receive more upgrades, they take a different role, being your main tool against enemy artillery and ships. Lelas, on the other hand, are powerful, strong, yet lumbering cannons capable of easily tearing through enemy infantry and buildings alike. Much like other Asian civilizations, the Filipinos have their own naval roster, from the small but numerous Salisipan and Cotamaras you can train to swarm your enemies, to the swift landing ship known as the Caracoa, and even the massive, lumbering Joanga that can train your other ships on their own. With unique units, features, and extensive cultural research, we hope you enjoy this labor of love that took 2 years to produce, a celebration of Filipino culture meant for the entire Age of Empires 3 community. Round of applause for Chumbeke. What an announcement. Again, he put this out about a month or so ago, maybe a little more, about the same time that the AoE3 cancellation was announced. But how fantastic is it that we get another Chumbeke solo project masterpiece just at the same time as the AoE3 DLC cancellation comes. It is not the same, of course, and yet I would see it as being a ray of light amidst the frustration. It shows that even though AoE3 is not receiving official dev support, the community is there. There is no doubt about that. And the community modders are there to continue to bring fantastic projects to this incredibly versatile and underrated game. Go check out Chumbeke's mod. He's going to keep, there's new stuff on the horizon for it. I have no doubt whatsoever. And now I'd like to bop over to comments to see what you guys think about all this between Chumbeke's mod, the AoE3 situation, and similar. Let's take a look. Okay. This is going to go a little bit back in time. High school is when I discovered AoE2, actually. Nice. Greetings to you, Anarcho Trasher. Tone of this post is so condescending about the AoE3 thing right here. We know for years that World's Edge doesn't give a shit. I wish they did, though, and I think there's some hope. A Quagsire, hey, I'm one of the guys who speculated on the East Asian DLC. I've had some ideas on which East Asian saves can be added due to having knowledge on how Chinese censorship works. That's sick. I have a little bit of knowledge too, though admittedly most of what I've learned has come from comments, but we'll be discussing that as our next topic, most likely. Mega says it's insult to injury with how they talk to us. Yeah, I can see how it'd be super frustrating. I don't have as much personal investment in the game, and yet it feels annoying even for me to read it. Eric says, I think it's kind of cowardly to cancel something on a blog rather than doing it in a video like they did when they announced the DLC. You know, I don't disagree with you, to be honest. Ola says, I am always ready to listen to what a Quagsire has to say. Who isn't, to be perfectly honest? Quagsires run the world, or should at least. Bobo says, hey, it's good to see you, man. And then is backstabbing, promising more open communication for years, and then pulling the plug out of nowhere. Don't allow yourself to be too optimistic. AOM will be next on the chopping block. I agree with that. That's what I'm going to get to a little bit later. Because people bought the deluxe gold whatever edition and paid for future content. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that as the last topic of today. China has history books on the Chubo Empire, which are state-sanctioned, so civs that exist in the past of Chinese history can be added. Yes, that is something that I've heard a lot of people say. I believe Tibetans are completely on the table, though I do not believe they will be a part of this next DLC. I can hope they are, but I don't think they will be. AOM is a more single-player focused game, though. It's normal that it has less players since the multiplayer focus is less relevant. AOM is close to AoE3, but they're still pretty different. No doubt about that. I would say one of the similarities between AOM and AoE3, from what I have heard at least, is that they are more single-player focused than competitive multiplayer focused, with AOM being especially single-player focused, and AoE3 seeming to have a big focus on kind of casual multiplayer. So I'd say that there are parallels between the two. And I think that AOM being single-player focused still means that if the AoE team is trying to min-max their projects, it is going to have trouble eking out an existence. I feel AoE 2 isn't so popular because of how popular is to. Oh, pardon, you mean AoE 3 isn't popular because of how complicated it is to play. I've heard some people say that AoE 3 is a very complicated game, and it is tough to get into. I think there's no doubt about that. I have a lot of thoughts about the game that I wish I could get into more in depth, but in summary, I think that it is a very underrated game that is easier than it looks, whereas it doesn't look super easily. Kind of blocked the text, apologies. Hey, Robbie. Hey! Shambege, who designed such a civ? It's you! You did a great job, as per usual, and it's fantastic that you dropped it at this time. Filipinos are certainly a unique choice, but this build make me want to know more. Yes, that is exactly the goal. And Chumbeke actually has a fantastic pledge towards cultural research. Took him 2 years to make this damn thing. And he clearly has put the time in to make it as authentic as possible, which I absolutely love to see, and I think makes it stand head and shoulders above official civilizations from what, again, I have processed. Let's see, what else? New mod to try. You're welcome, my friend. Enjoy. Is Claude Sire also having an opinion? Let's see. I hope I'm wrong, but considering how bad the devs are at communication, I wonder if they're not hiding plans for a new AoE3 definitively, absolutely definitive edition Pinky Promise. With the DLC they started working on integrated into it like they did with Last Cons. Oh, God. I mean, I think on one hand, people would buy it, but I think on the other hand, they'd be unhappy. But we'll see. I don't know. Is that like a hopeful sentiment? Maybe. It's kind of mid-hopeful. But you're not wrong, it sounds like it's possible. Trying out Age of World mods, sick. Be extremely rapacious and a terrible business and marketing practice as well as communication. Yes, I completely agree. 2025 is the 20-year anniversary for AoE3. Would be fitting for them to cancel all support as a gift for the community. That's brutal. Yeah. Hello, Robbie. Hope you're well. Hope you're well too, my friend. It's good to hear from you. AoE3 main and depth of each civilization, what I enjoy most about it. Bum that Persia will never come to the game. Yeah, the depth of each civilization to AoE3 as a game designer, I think is super cool and fantastic, and I love how asymmetrical it is. Persia may come as a mod, you never know, and the mods in AoE3 are notoriously great. Of course, at the 20th anniversary, they could handle such way better. And Sandy Peterson did say that Moros would be a good civilization for AoE2, which could represent Filipinos, I guess. I've had thoughts on Filipino stuff for AoE2 as well, but that is something we can get to in time. You guys have great insights on this. I could totally see this being some unusual kind of business decision pivoting into an ultra super turbo definitive edition, but I think in my eyes the best case scenario we have right now is that AoE3 has a period where it is able to have its community kind of come together around it, maybe tighten, maybe shrink, and then down the line, if we are lucky, it can have a renaissance, similar to what we saw with Age of Empires 2. But that is entirely conjecture. So there is the first topic, Age of Empires 3, the Age of Empires 3 chart, which will be relevant again in a little bit, and then, of course, the new Filipinos mod, which I will be posting some updates on my Discord, and maybe even dropping a full trailer on my channel at some point. But again, that is up in the air. Not going to promise anything in that regard yet. And regardless, Chumbeke, thank you so much for your contributions to the game. You are fantastic, as always. Let's move on to the next topic. The video that I made on the way back. Ho ho, ho ho, fiddle me dee, fiddle me do. We got an East Asian DLC. How exciting. We've obviously pored over these pictures in depth. However, a couple people in the commentos did point out some interesting topics. For example, that the shields on the back of these riders look kind of like the Jurchen for, like, how would you call it? Like, political compass head-ass looking symbol that I used for my Jurchen's ensign back in my own build. And so, as such, people are like, well, the shield looks kind of similar to that. Maybe this is actually an iron pagoda. To which I said, okay, that's a clever idea. You might be right. If that is the case, God, I hope that this is just like a scenario eye candy where you happen to have a bunch of iron pagodas as while playing the Tongans. Because if the Jurchens are the ones who get the camel catapults, I am going to be very annoyed. But I do not think that's the case. That would be ridiculous. Similarly, these Fire Lancer spearmen, people suggested, hey, what if this is an upgrade to the pikemen? To which I said, that's actually quite a cool idea. Though it would be kind of a shame for Chinese civilizations to miss pikemen, given halberdier, given that the halberd is such an iconic unit. I was also told that some of my my boomer lack of up-to-dateness with Age of Empires is showing, like the fact that these donkeys, they've been around, and also the bell on the East Asian temple, that's been around for a while, and I'm just dumb. So I completely missed that. And I believe someone else said that there was a clue on this castle that like these banners right here that might indicate that rather than being a Chinese castle reskin, which I really still hope it is, that this is maybe for a new civilization. Maybe the Jurchens. I really hope this isn't the Jurchen ensign. It might be. Maybe it has some clever reference that I didn't pick up, but yeah, it doesn't look super Jurchen-ish to me. But yeah, overall, I think I'm deserved a bit of a gloat for some good predictions here, which is of course what that video was about. However, I also wanted to discuss with you something else that was interesting that came to my mind as a part of this discussion surrounding the new DLC, that being how many civilizations we are getting. I've heard a lot of people in comments and similar saying, oh, this is proof we are getting 3 new civilizations. And the reasoning was because something, yes, Tangut is pretty much locked in, yes, Jurchen is pretty much locked in, but this castle doesn't really look either Tangut or Jurchen, so maybe it's something else, maybe it is Khitan, because admittedly, this ensign right here, assuming this is a civilization ensign, that could be a Khitan ensign, because admittedly there is so little to go off of, you really have to stretch. Like, I was really proud of the one I came up with, and that took some insane digging to find. And so maybe we will have a Khitan civilization that in this particular scenario specific thing has some Chukonos, something along those lines. I think that would be fantastic, and if that ended up being the case, I would be a very happy boy. But more to the point, when I heard about the DLC announcement, I again went to my favorite website, not really, but one of them, Steam Charts. And you'll notice that this is over, again, a year time frame. Age of Empires had a great year last year, and it's kind of sloping down during that big drought we had. And then there's the big bump up where probably Victors and Vanquished, then dips and bops and bips. The DLC announcement, of course, is not causing enormous moves to happen yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if when it released, it had a big spike up. I do genuinely believe that just based on the aesthetics that I'm seeing, this upcoming DLC could be huge. And it pertains also to something else that I wanted to discuss in the next section when we talk about Age of Mythology. As a brief side, though, on the topic of the AoE2 DLC video, so I have the comments section for this up. There's one comment I wish to respond to. Where are you? There, right here. Mad Bun, how dare you insult the sweater my mother-in-law knitted for me? You cur. You cad. You jerk. Thank you for the compliment, though. I appreciate that. But yeah, in summary, I had wanted to mention some of the follow-ups that came to mind after I put out that video, especially with some of the interesting comments people had made, like with this potentially being an Iron Pagoda. I really hope it isn't. And potentially us getting a third civilization because of a weird ensign-looking thing over here. I want to know what you guys think about this, and whether there have been any other thoughts and discourse circulating about the AoE2 DLC. And yes, before anyone mentions it again, it is true that it would seem as though Tibetans are on the table because medieval Tibet, Tubo, that sort of thing is it does seem to be permitted topic of discourse in mainland China. To briefly check in with comments on this regard, while researching, I saw numerous reports from China about people from most likely the Visayas doing raids during the 13th century. Oh, this is about the Chimbeke build, let's say. At this point, we kind of need a whole entire remake for AoE2 that just modernized everything from giving regional skins for generic units. Yes, I actually quite agree with that sentiment, though I wouldn't say a remake. I'd say you could probably accomplish that with even cheap paid DLCs. I would be okay with. Heavily armored cavalry seems to have a sha, which is a polearm that's essentially a sword plus a spear. That's cool. I never heard that term before. There's a bunch of different polearms of that nature from medieval China that I kind of pieced apart while I was going through stuff. I just never thought to put it on a cavalryman before. The DE engine is really nice. I agree with that. Me hoping that the DLC will include changes to Vietnamese. And hopefully the civ changes its name to the Viet. Yeah, the Vietnamese, or as it should be, Viet, is honestly a very underexplored civilization in AoE2 that I think has deserved some modernization for a while. I really hope Khitan are part of the DLC, as long as we get Chinese and or Korean updates and campaigns in addition to anything in the new set. Yeah, I would love to see that. Because, again, Jurchens, Tanguts, Khitans, even though I think Tanguts are kind of the odd man out there, I think that would be a fantastic set, a proper 3-civ DLC with a overhaul of an existing one, or maybe a mini overhaul to Chinese and Koreans. Something that gives us proper value, bunch of campaigns, holy smokes, that would just be incredible. Mad Bun is right, how fucking dare you? And okay, here's the best part about those sweaters. My mother-in-law knitted matching ones for me, both of my kids, and my wife. So we all have matching sweaters of multiple varieties, too. I feel like the DLC will just be Khitan, Tangut, Jurchen plus Chinese and Korean rework. If it is that, I will be thrilled. I will genuinely, if we get Khitan, Tangut, Jurchen plus Chinese and Korean rework, I will call this the best DLC of all time. Assuming there is no garbage bad history in there and we actually get some nice campaigns. So if my dream would be Dynasties of India in terms of the amount, and Lords, not Lord, what was the name of the Polish DLC? I'm dumb, I can't remember. That one in terms of campaign quality. If we get those two together, that's going to be amazing. Iron Pagodas, Iron Pagoda's pose reminds me of the Custila. Yes, I agree. It does kind of look like that. Though, again, I hope it's an Iron Sparrowhawk. That would be so much more fitting for a Tangut civilization, unless, of course, this is eye candy. I have no knowledge of Chinese history. I'm eager to learn. Yes, I agree. The Chinese history is tough to get into, but having done so a bunch recently, God, it's so cool. And if the game can do it even the slightest bit of justice, it will be amazing. I really hope Tibetans will be included. Yes, I would love to see Tibetans included. I do think they are a slightly lower priority than the other three I mentioned. Not because I don't like them. I think they're fantastic and I did build on them way back in the day. But rather because they don't feature in existing campaigns. Unless I'm dumb and there's a newer one that came out that mentions them. But the other three do feature in existing campaigns and are, like, I'd say more integral to the history of the Chinese heartland, even though none of them are Chinese, I should note. They are different peoples who happened to conquer and rule parts of China. Some people complain about Civ bloat. What about adding Civs to 82? Have a new mechanic where you age into a new variant. So I've thought about variant Civs just like that before as well, and I even plan on doing a video about it at some point down the line. I don't think Civ bloat is a problem. And I genuinely believe that. My thoughts on it are if League of Legends can have, 200 champions, then this game can totally have like half that number of civilizations. If Magic the Gathering players can memorize thousands of different combinations of cards, if not millions, then what is the problem with us having to memorize, 40, 50 civs worth of matchups? Even then, even if it feels like too much, why not have civs in a rotation for competitive? Say, oh yeah, this month, these 20 civs are in the rotation pool. And that also means that if you don't own the DLC, then if you hit random, you can random some of the ones you don't have yet. Something like that. I feel like there are ways around it, and I think that the complaints of civ bloat are mostly coming from nostalgia perspectives, which I personally think are illegitimate, but I will not say should not exist. Hello, Tomasz. It's good to see you. I want Tibetans to be part of the game, but I think they can be part of a layer DLC focused on South China or the Himalayas. Precisely. That is exactly what I would like to see. Play is more fun. Yeah, I won't knock that, absolutely. God, I kind of hate East Asian building style. All the building is way too Japanese. Couldn't agree more. I would love to see it. Like that's part of the reason I was so excited to see this castle right here. This looks properly Chinese. Again, not perfect. Again, stylized. But damn sight closer. God, I would love if the East Asian architecture was overhauled to look more like this. Then the Japanese can have their own, because the current East Asian building style looks great for the Japanese. It's just only Japanese. Dawn of the Dukes. Thank you. I'm dumb. Didn't contain any dukes. Oh God. As a Bangladeshi, I want to say that the Bengalis in AoE2 are the most accurate portrayal of my people I've ever seen. So DOI will always be my favorite. Nice, that's great to hear. The Bengalis, even though they've obviously had trouble competitively, I think they are overall a very cool, flavorful design. And so when DOI came out, I remember feeling like, obviously, in my opinion, the Dravidians are garbage. They're one of my least favorite civilizations in terms of their design, in terms of their history, the grouping, everything. I hate it. But the other three are pretty good, especially, I would say, the Hindustanis and the Bengalis. The Gurjars are midway for me. Some elements I like, some elements I don't like. I feel like the bridge in the picture in the background is doing its job not very well. Oh no, guys, this bridge is historically inaccurate. This bridge didn't break till 1058 AD. Yeah. Can we maybe see the Japanese in the new campaigns? Depends. There are certain civilizations among these who did tango with the Japanese briefly. But I'd say that most of it would have to probably deal with a Korean overhaul and getting a proper Korean campaign that maybe dealt with Japanese, or the Japanese were pirated and pirated in return, some of the peoples here. So maybe have them as a one-off player in a scenario. Not only are Tunguts, Jurchens, and Khitans present in current campaigns, but they're part of the same campaign, exactly. Japanese could show up a little bit if the new campaigns touch upon Korean or Mongol invasions, exactly. MOBA and fighting games have absurd rosters and people complain about too many civs in RTS. Yes, precisely. That is my argument. Yes, I understand they are different beasts. But I'd say they're in many ways more alike than different. And as someone who loves fighting games and played MOBAs for a little while too, it's something. It's a part of the culture I think I'd love to see extend to RTSs as well. And AoE2, it's anyway just personal preferences for architecture style for your scout rush. Yeah, that's another thing, is that AoE2 civs are honestly very similar to each other in comparison to a lot of other games. Same campaign included both civs from Dawn of the Dukes. I think 50-55 civs is a good number. Rotations are not it. Preventing players to play what they like doesn't really help multiplayer. I actually kind of disagree with that. In fact, I very much disagree with it. I think that rotations would not only help spice up the meta and make people try new stuff, but it doesn't prevent them from playing it in not only like unranked casual modes, but I think also, more than that, having a rotation, as we see in games like Magic the Gathering, for example, is a great way to get people to like rediscover the game and get like re-excited for it. And especially if that rotation includes new stuff for free, which people love. More architecture styles, yes. Do you think some of the HD Civ like Britain, Slav, and Teuton should rework or break it up? Break them up! Localize unit skins, please. Yep. No more unit skins. The game absolutely needs more architecture styles, more than unit skins, pardon. Yes, agree with both. It'd be cool to see AoE3 civs in the time frame in the AoE2 engine. I agree. I love the AoE2 engine. Do I think a Hokkaido or Ainu civ is viable? Possibly. I would have to do research. Let's see. Yeah, but I do like the AoE2 engine more than the AoE3 engine, which is part of the reason why I played the former and not particularly the latter. Even though I think that the AoE3 time frame is quite interesting, the AoE2 engine has always just been very punchy and exciting for me. Now, we've been talking a lot. Let's proceed on to talking about Age of Mythology here. I've been showing you a lot of graphs today. There's a graph, there's a graph. Yep. I have another graph for you here. This is the Age of Mythology graph. Take a look at this. So, Age of Mythology currently has a little spiky poo around here. I believe this is when the DLC was announced, or around then. Maybe not exactly then, but sometime around then. But take a look at this. The player numbers for Age of Mythology were well below 5,000, and overall have been dramatically lower. This is on a 6 month, so here's a 6 month. Look at this consistency for AoE 3. It's always pretty much between like high 4,000s, low 6,000s, some random peaks. Whereas Age of Mythology, obviously it started out very strong and then had this pretty steep drop-off to where you only have people playing in like the high 2,000s to low 4,000s. Now, I love Age of Mythology. I would say that if I absolutely had to pick, it is, like, content-wise, the most interesting game in the series for me. Even though I've played Age of Empires 2 more, I'm more nostalgic for Age of Empires 2. Age of Mythology is the game, first of all, I like mythology more than history. And second of all, I love the asymmetrical nature of its gameplay. I love asymmetrical games, and Age of Empires 2 is not. However, even though I love Age of Mythology, I cannot help but wonder what the heck and schmeck this is about, and why the devs aren't looking at this with more, or if they are, what they plan on doing about it. If they're not looking at it with seriousness, then why? And if so, what are they planning on doing? Yes, the DLC I think will help, but as people have commented, Age of Mythology is a single-player focused game. And as such, if you want to keep a single-player focused audience engaged, you need to put out a lot of single-player focused content. Either that, or I think an even better move would be really prioritizing the Age of Mythology editor and incentivizing the modding community to put out beautiful projects of their own that can keep players entertained, which is, again, one of the reasons that AoE 2 survived so much, and one of the reasons that AoE 3 continues to have such a robust community to some degree as well, is because both of them are fantastic modding platforms, and Age of Mythology is not. I'm sure you can do amazing things when you know the editor. We have things like the fan-made Aztec project and stuff like that to evidence that, but it is clearly a denser editor and is a lot harder for a casual player to make anything with. And I would know because I tried, unless they've updated it, which I doubt. So yeah, if this is really fated to be a single-player game, and they're not going to try to crank the multiplayer, they're not going to try to make a competitive scene, that's fine. We don't need another competitive scene game. We have AoE 2 and I guess AoE 4 to discuss it. No shade to you AoE 4 lovers. I just don't personally like the game. Then how do you prioritize single-player content? I think it is with frequent single-player content releases, such as, yes, the new Civ, that's great. I'm sure it's going to have a nice fat campaign, but can we have more than just, like, crappy little one-off mythical battles, which are not in any way mythical and are just continuing the in-game plotline, which has very little basis in mythology, but whatever. Yeah, maybe instead of just like a single scenario and then forgetting about it, we could have some more content than that, please and thank you. Yes, that is the way to sustain a single player community, is content. Not to and if you don't want to make it, outsource it. Get those modders on it. have a modding showcase. Make a thing where once every quarter or something, you pick the best mod out there, you showcase it, that person gets like, oh my god, my mod's getting recognized, and then people flood into play it. Some shit like that. I don't know. There are ways to do this, point being, if indeed the game is destined to be single player. However, we also, of course, have the Chinese release to discuss to some degree. Now, this is something people have said, oh, you're going to make a video about it. The answer is no, I'm not going to make a video about it, most likely, for two reasons. One, I'm kind of butthurt that I didn't get to put out my own version of the Chinese first. And probably I will do my own version someday and just say, yeah, I was working on this a bit before the official dropped, and then it got ahead of me and I was doing other stuff, blah, 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 blah. But the other reason is because while I have done some research into Chinese mythology for my own build, I haven't done enough that I feel in any way qualified to talk about it. What I can say, however, and you know me, I am a pedant, I am quick to criticize, I will say that this Chinese build looks good. I'm not going to say great, I'm definitely not going to say perfect, but I will say good. One of the reasons I like it so much is they have done a great job of clustering this build at a particular point in history, based on, oh, look at these beautiful unit models right here. This is just scrumptious. But based on the human units that they have picked, they are doing a great job of focusing this Chinese build pretty much precisely during like the Warring States period and a little before. And what have I often said? I like builds to be bound in time. I hate when a build covers a frickin' 1,000 years of history. It just doesn't work. And moreover, this means that they clearly were drawing on a rather finite pool of sources when they were determining things like myth units and gods. And I think that's great. That means that you can get way more specific. That means you can focus on what the 4 treasures and the 4 banes, I think they're called. I think I saw all of those as myth units. They didn't just do the, oh guys, we're doing Journey to the West, look at Sun Wukong. Shut up! I don't like that. But instead, they were like, no, this is focusing pretty specifically on the Warring States period and the deities that were relevant and the stories that were relevant during that time. The art is quite beautiful. And the look of the civilization, the feel of the civilization, while it is, of course, not perfect and one more versed in Chinese history than I would have a billion things wrong to say about it, I think that, honestly, they did well. And by the standards of Age of Mythology, the dubious historical and cultural authenticity standards of Age of Mythology, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the best civilization in the game by those standards, and I might even say by far the best civilization. If you are not yet acquainted with the Chinese, they already have a wiki page. God, these wiki guys, man. If any of you are watching, you guys are insane. Like, dropping this shit so quickly. Yeah, they have all of this crap. Spirit of the Law put out a video on it. I highly would recommend looking it up because, again, like I said, this looks good. Like, look at this. Look at this dude. It looks great. It's so sick. It's actually, again, a genuine attempt to make an authentic Civ design. And, or again, I'm sure it's not perfect, but at least by my standards, from what I know of Chinese mythology, a little bit, this is a B+, maybe even an A-. And by my standards, that's insane. They did great. And I really hope that when I do my own research, I continue to think that. But yeah, I'm honestly very impressed, which brings me back to this goddamn graph. If they're going to put out what, to me, might end up being one of the best designed, culturally grounded, time-bounded civilizations in any Age game ever, and the game is going to be fiddling around with 2,000 players, what the hell? Like, there's got to be ways that we can bump up those numbers and make sure more people are experiencing how good this game like is, how much potential it has, how much the devs are committed to the game being, you know, authentic and robust and supported. And so this just makes me feel like there's something else that they could be doing in order to make people, to draw people in more to Age of Mythology, like they are with AoE2 and AoE3. And again, my money would be on mod support and really getting the modding scene up and going, giving them the tools they need to put out beautiful, free content that people can love and enjoy, that people can goof around with, like Castle Blood, that have nothing to do with the base game, but is still like engaging and exciting. Because I'll be honest, if Age of Mythology continues with this trend, like maybe they have a big spike with the DLC and then go back down, I think it's going the same way as AoE3. And I hate to say it because I love Age of Mythology, and it's really exciting to see what they're doing. It looks good. It looks actually really good. And yet I cannot help but believe that if they're going to be this, like, all right, AoE3 isn't bringing in what we want, so we're cutting it cold turkey. I kind of feel like that's going to happen here too. And I really, really do not want that to happen. But what do you guys think? I would love to hear your opinions on Age of Mythology, the upcoming DLC, whether it looks good or not to you. And then I want to show you one last little graph, and then we'll get on to the build of the month. Let's hear what you guys think about this. Let's see. AoE2 engine is very, like, it has great performance. I fully agree. Hello, Bjark. It's good to see you. Different architecture styles. Woo! For Georgians, Armenians, and Byzantines. Yes! Place. I totally agree. How do you think of the Jurchens being the Cavalry Archer Civ, while the Tungats are the early Gunpowder Civ? Actually, don't like that at all. I do like Jurchens being a cavalry archer thing, but I think that they should get the gunpowder stuff, given that not only did they do a lot more of that in the Jin Song Wars, but also later on in the AoE2 time frame, towards the end of it, they did adopt a lot of gunpowder stuff, whereas Tongats, like I mentioned in my build, I think make a lot more sense being defensively oriented. Cavalry can be still good for them, and they can have pretty good infantry, but if you're going to have one of these civilizations with weak archers, it should be the Tongats. Though they're not terrible, right? Odd-numbered AoE games seem to be cursed. 4 only because it's a new one. Yeah, I personally don't like 4 at all, but we'll see. AoE3 cancellation ironically made me play it again. Yes, I hope many do the same. AoE2 is the exception, not the rule. We should stop expecting games to go like AoE2. You know, I half agree with that. I think that AoE2 is not just magic, right? I think that you can replicate elements of its success, and we should endeavor for all games in the Age series to be successful rather than seeing it as a zero-sum game. And I do think that a big part of what makes AoE2 so good are how snappy and dynamic the engine is, how like accessible it is, and mods. It has a honestly great modding platform. From what I have heard, from what I have seen. It has limitations, yeah, but it's really accessible. Even a bonehead like me can make something kind of cool. Let's see. How much content per month would you suggest? I don't even know necessarily per month. Even if you put out, like, a campaign per quarter, and maybe say, okay, campaign per quarter, first third of it is free. That sounds pretty sick. And then the rest you can buy for 5 buckaroonies or whatever the hell. Because again, Age of Mythology campaigns are quite big. And so you could see it kind of like Battle for Greece. Please don't make it $10, please. But like, make it like Battle for Greece. Bring on some modders to help. That sort of thing. And you could probably churn out a good amount of really awesome content. AoE3 DLC, maybe pick it up again. Experimenting with funny shipment card builds. Nice. Nicely done. Japanese or Aztec for AOM. I have builds planned for both. I think Aztec is still the next most likely. We should be calling them Nahua, of course. I'm probably still going to title my build the Aztecs because I want to grab them clickaroos, but yeah, Nahua would be the proper one. Let's see. The anti-Chinese for AoE too. Maybe. This China's leaps and bounds better roster-wise than the old janky Tail of the Dragon. Yes, God, yes it is. The old Tail of the Dragon DLC. I actually kind of credit that one to why Age of Mythology did not have a renaissance like AoE2. And again, no shade on the passionate fans who made it happen. You guys did your absolute best. But at the end of the day, I think that the Forgotten was just like a better catalyst to the AoE2 community than the Tales of the Dragon one. And again, with how dense Age of Mythology's editor was, the fact that they made anything happen is quite impressive. They can still do Sun Wukong. if a Japanese DLC happens. Nice. I feel like AoE2 structure makes it very favorable for a semi-live service model, especially because of how episodic the campaigns are and how similar but different all similar civilizations are. Maybe. I think that there's still other ways to make it work, though, besides just that. What about Germanic mythology for AOM, Goths and whatnot? I fully would love to see that. I think a lot of people would say, oh, but the Norse. Yeah, and because of that, I'd put like a Germanic culture a little further down the line, because there would be overlap, but you don't have to make there be substantial overlap. It can cover a lot of the holes that the Norse civilization currently doesn't fill. It's a very real fear that once the pre-sold DLC is out, they immediately drop support for this game. Yeah, exactly. Please don't. The quality of this Chinese civilization looks amazing. And if this is what they can do, and from here they're just going to go back to supporting frickin' AoE4, Joan of Arc, hand cannon looking head ass. No. Please no. Please no. I don't want that. I want Age of Mythology. The winged tiger making biscuits in his idle animation makes me happy. Yeah, it's adorable. Are you going to see what new stuff you can do with the Chinese DLC like you did with the Norse gods? Yes, though probably further down the line, especially because it looks actually good. Have you seen the hilarious units and triggers I've been making in game? Haven't had time to keep up, but I'm sure they've been great. Germanic would fit better with other civs than the Norse, though. I would fully agree, but that's why I do think they have full merit to be different civilizations. Just they would have some overlap to some degree, especially some thematic overlap, and that's why I'd prioritize it far down the line. There's many more important things to touch upon. Can't wait for the Age of Mythology modding tools to be freed. Yep, like I said, you see this graph? I think the modding tools are what is going to fix this graph. A hero-focused civilization, Germanic heroic tradition is huge. Yeah, that would be pretty sick. The last graph I want to show you guys before we get to the build of the month is going to be this one. I've been releasing some polls recently for you guys. Things like, Age of Empires 2 players, do you feel burned out or disinterested with the game? And I was really curious about this. And look at this. 6% of people say that the game has lost their interest. That is not much. And you say, yeah, I haven't played much recently for whatever reason. I bet you anything that this 39% is going to go down to like 5 when the DLC drops. But then shift up here. Age of Mythology players, do you feel burned out or disinterested? 17% said yes. That's substantial. And yeah, I know that this poll has only been out for a bit, only has 87 votes. It's released 20 hours ago. But I think it's still pertinent and relevant. And we should be asking ourselves, and the devs should be asking themselves, why are AOM players getting burned out? Again, this could circle back to it being a single-player game, lack of content. Again, this could circle back to the competitive scene maybe not quite being there. Maybe it circles back again to mods and modding tools. Why do you guys think this is? Even again, this is not the sample size I would like, but it's a start, and I think it's indicative. I saw very similar trends when this poll was in its early, first 24 hours. And I release polls like this because I think it's not only interesting to gather this data, but I also think it's useful, and hopefully someone out there is observing these trends and is thinking to themselves, how can we get people to play this brand new game that we're putting out this beautiful polished content for, and we spent so much money and time hyping up, and it had a cataclysmic record-breaking drop where frickin' everyone was playing it for about 24 hours. How do we bring it back? Just campaigns? Just modding tools? We will see. Hopefully it is useful, though, and hopefully it is interesting. To briefly check back in with you guys, Arthurian civilization, hell yeah. Think Jurchens should be kind of like current Turks? Less gunpowder, more cavalry archers and cavalry, including heavy cavalry. Gods and myth units would be pretty similar to Norse, though. I don't think it has to be. You can cover ground that the current Norse didn't cover. Would be such a fun build, fully agree. Absolute Mad Lab move. Germanic mythology civ, but it's fairy tales themed. I actually quite like that idea too. I'd personally make them 2 different ones. I lost interest in playing any other AoE games after the AoE3 betrayal. Totally understand that. Before that, I was really having fun playing through AoE 2, 3, and Mythology. Beautifully polished content. Slav civ confirmed. Nice. All right, guys. Now, it is time for my last planned segment. Hopefully you've been enjoying this thus far. I hope this has been a fun check-in for you guys. Let me know if you enjoyed. We're going to talk about this Inca build that was submitted by Guayir. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted builds of the month. If you wish to submit builds of the month for the next stream I do, please feel free to DM me. I will try to remember to make an announcement reminding people that it is forthcoming. However, from here, let us look at this Inca build again submitted by Guayer. I got a decent number of builds this week. Again, huge thanks to everyone who submitted. This one, though, really caught my eye because, first of all, 14 pages long. Hell yeah, dude. Guayer, if you wanna throw a sharing link for this into the Discord, into chat, wherever, you're more than welcome to. Or if you need me to, I'm happy to. This Inca build I thought was sick because, first of all, their favor mechanic is quite fascinating. You spawn with a Sapa Inca, kind of like a pharaoh, so to speak. It has an aura which buffs damage against myth units, but if the Sapa Inca dies, they spawn an Inca mummy, which generate favor. So your hero and your favor mechanic are tethered together, and you have a supportive hero who buffs your own units to be better against myth units, and then when it dies, you get to have passive favor generation. And then also, they are more expensive the more mummies you have. I think that this is a really cool dynamic. The numbers would have to be fiddled with quite a lot to make it work perfectly, but I like the idea a lot. Another great idea here, the Incans being able to build roads, built from one building to another. What a great idea, that's so sick. I love that, especially for the Inca who are so famous for it, right? Then, obviously, there's a couple of different optional buildings that you can talk about, a bunch of units, things like, of course, having the Chasqui as like a starting stat. That makes so much sense. Even a reference to the AoE2 Kamayuk. Slingers, classic, you need to have that. Of note for Guayer, I believe Incan Bola were called Liwi, Liwi. I could be wrong on that. I could really be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case if you want to have a different name. I'm glad we have a Bola thrower, though. I think Bolas are super cool. And then for major gods, again, Inca mythology is something I have not studied nearly enough, but based on what little background knowledge I have, this looks quite good to me. Things like Pachamama as like an eco-villager focus thing, Viracocha, of course, with a building focus, which I thought was quite interesting, like defensive buildings, things like that. And of course, Inti with an infantry focus. Some of these bonuses are pretty sick. For example, like Age 3 infantry units available in the second age. That's tight. I like that a lot. As well as, what was it? Not rain. Yeah, defensive buildings self-repair when not under attack. What an awesome idea. And then roads spread naturally from town center. This is a great design, and there's so many cool ideas. It feels great. Minor gods, he goes into depth. Not only does he have actual like god powers like drought, which of course I've done like some mechanics similar in my builds, but also myth units. And Inca myth units are pretty tricky to research. Not impossible by any means. I found a couple, but this is awesome. Giant bow made of water, amphibious. How sick of an idea is that? And I'll just kind of like slowly, I know, I'll do my like little scroll wheel thing. It's not letting me? Oh, shit. Well, in that case, I'll just like slowly scroll through. In summary, this feels like a remarkably coherent build to me. It has a lot of great detail that feels quite culturally grounded. The Inca religion is not easy to research, and yet he's pulled a lot out of what sources that we have, in again a way that I think is quite admirably authentic. The build kind of mixes together and links up with its own internal mechanics in a great way, like with Viracocha having something that references the unique road building, and also again. This is almost a full build. Yeah, it's missing a couple of gods, missing a couple of myth units here and there, but it's remarkably thorough. Look at this sick-ass Inca dragon. How cool is that? I love it. And so, in summary, I thought that this was a fantastic design, and I will, if nothing else, be posting a link on Discord. In fact, do I have the sharing link now? Anyone who has the link can access, no sign-in required. Nice. In that case, I will link share it right now. Oh, wait, I have to ask to share? Never mind. Or can I just copy? Yeah, let me try it. I will post it over in the Discord. Over and post your builds. Congratulations, Guayer, for a fantastic design. That's posted over in Discord, and I will also toss the link over in Chatteroonie. Thanks again to Guayer and everyone else who submitted builds. I thought that this was fantastic. Bam! Okay. Let us take a look back over chat. At this point, this has been all the pre-prepared stuff I wanted to share with you guys today, talking about AoE3, talking about AoE2, talking about AOM, and doing the build of the month. At this point, I'd like to open it up to you guys. If you have questions for me, if you have topics you would like to discuss, if you have thoughts on some of the previous segments we covered, please share with me now. I would love to hear them. I'll take a quick look at Chatteroony. Jerchins should have gunpowder. Yes, Eric, I believe they absolutely should. If you are going to make, especially, I know they're focusing on early Jerchins, so it can be like earlier gunpowder stuff, but they pioneered early gunpowder use, and judging by the grenadiers that I spotted in that screenshot, they will be, and I hope they are. I've been very disappointed with the content for AOM Retold. Went from super excited to return to bitterly disappointed with the perceived lack of love the developers have for the game. Exactly! What the hell? They got fuck all going on there. Like, they had the Freyr thing, which I thought was pretty great, actually. I did like that. It was in the right direction, if nothing else. And then they had Arena of the Gods. Like, anyone asked for that? And then they have this Chinese thing, which looks great. But it's just, I feel like they could be doing a lot more for the game, especially with it being the new baby. Germanic myths, but fairy tales is just Shrek. Somebody... Okay, anyways. Fairy tales might be more feasible since Germanic is rather close to Norse, but not as well documented. You can get a lot out of just plain Germanic, but I think a fairy tales one would be very fun. Bills a month, does this mean plural for the next stream? I'm just going to do one per stream, at least for now. You can do it, yes, I can't right now. Thank you, Guayer. Again, very well done with your build. Build of the month is for both AoE2 and AOM. I'm accepting AoE2 and AOM builds, and I'll just pick whichever I like best. Of course, honorable build of the month to Chumbeke's fantastic Filipinos mod, but I think that kind of goes beyond what we talk about here, just because of how polished and beautiful it is. Genzoman the goat, nice. Wasn't Viracocha the fake protagonist in Pachacudi? I'm actually not sure what the connection is. Probably just named after the god. Song I made the other day in Music Channel was in Middle French. Pretty cool. Likeometer on the Incas to be added to Age of Mythology. Assuming that Age of Mythology continues to put out new cultures and goes at a pace of like one a year-ish, I would give the Inca like a 5 out of 10, maybe 4. Yeah, I don't think higher than that. Reason being as well, they would be great groundbreaker and like open up a new part of the world map. They are harder to research, and the AoE team has never been great in that. Although, again, for the Chinese, maybe that trend changes. Maybe the Age of Mythology research team is like on it, because the Chinese one looks fantastic. So maybe they could really do great stuff with the Inca, and it wouldn't be an absolute slog. I'd give it a 5. Give it a 5. Yeah, I'd love to see them. I think they'd be fantastic. Nobody had a similar name. Thank you. It's not a dev problem. It's a publisher problem. FE is supposed to cater to all AoE titles with like 60 people. Yeah, that's partially true. I do still think there are probably like managerial elements that they could leverage better in order to make it work better. I agree that the devs have very finite resources and have to apportion their time, but that's why you open up modding. That's why you focus your attention on making modding more feasible. Kind of like what you see over in Factorio. Like that game focuses a lot on making modders' lives easier, and then at their own pace, they kind of turn the mods into actual content with extra bells and whistles. So it is definitely still doable for a small team to make a lot happen with a sprawling game. You just have to really lean on your community more, which is what I'd hope they had done in the first place. And Joao says, hey, Robbie Lava, first time joining. Any expectations when the AoE2 DLC is properly announced? That's a great question, Joao. I would say probably, my guess, probably be April, and have it be like officially out sometime May. It's my guess, if I had to guess. I think it's going to happen before Q3, and Q3 starts in July. Watch me keep sharing AoE3 builds. You should! I dare you! Keep doing it, Chumbeke. Any speculation on the campaign that will feature in the new AoE2 DLC? Yes! I have lots of speculations. So if you take a look at my old Manchurian Legacy build, I talked quite a lot about what I would do with Khitan and with Jurchen campaigns. And then more recently I talked about Tanguts, and I also talked about, of course, the Tangren, so the earlier Chinese. I am guessing that they are not, and I even talked about the Koreans, so that's pretty much all of the different contenders that we have going. I am not necessarily sure that we are going to be focusing on the early, like, AoE2 time frame for the Chinese. My guess is going to be more like Song Dynasty sort of stuff, which is fine. I would just like it to be narrowed, please. Regardless of the window, just narrowed would be grand. And so, yeah, if you look at, like, for example, the Korean build that I put out, because I'm hoping, praying, expecting us to get a Korean DLC, I would love to see Admiral Yi get a full campaign. Right now, his current scenario incarnation, I think, is quite lame. And if not Admiral Yi, I'd like it to be Taizhou, the founder of the Joseon dynasty. I think that could be a good backup if they wanted to be purist about it and say, no, we already have a thing for Yi, we don't want to do another one for him. Sure, I get you. For Jurchens, I think you would have to be Emperor Taizu, also known as Wanyan Aguda. He was the one who kind of led the Jurchen invasion that formulated the Jin Empire. And you could also have it be picked up then by his son, Taizong. And so you could have like a bridge campaign where you start with Taizu, become Taizong. I think that's kind of the only option you have if you want to stick to the kind of high Middle Ages, so to speak, of time frame for the Jurchens. For the Khitans, I actually think it's really interesting. You have a lot of options here. There's a different, or rather, pardon, not Taizong, my bad, from earlier. But you have another Emperor Taizu, this time with a Taizong as his son for the Khitans. But I think it should be Yelu Dashi if we get the Khitans. With Yelu Dashi being the guy who kind of like led the Khitanic peoples westward after the Liao Empire fell and like founded the Kara Kitai. So he's like the bridge between the Liao dynasty and the Kara Kitai, and that would link us into the Kara Kitai's appearances in the Mongol campaign, which I think would be very, very elegant. For the Tanguts, as I mentioned in my recent build, there's again like a surprising number of options, but I think Wei Ming Yuanhao is the best option. He and his father and grandfather all kind of like laid the groundwork for the Xixia Empire to take root. But I think he's like the most interesting installment in that story. And lastly, for the Chinese, assuming you get a Chinese campaign, if we focus on the Song Dynasty time period, I'm honestly not sure. I genuinely don't know. Because I haven't done my research on them yet. But I think if we can go earlier than that, Taizong, Emperor Taizong, is by far and away, I would say, the most impactful emperor in all of like Chinese medieval history. So has to be him. Although again, I think that a cool backup could be the great lady herself, Wu Zetian. She is very iconic, and obviously people love a female protagonist. I just think Taizong is like too impactful to ignore. But pardon me, long-winded response. Which civilization with hand cannoneers, bomber cannons, and bomber towers do you think shouldn't have them? Goths. There's others as well. I think Goths are the big standout offender. We should see news on the AoE DLC around a week or two from now. Marketing cycles for AoE games last 9 days or so after release. That's fascinating. I had no idea. So yeah, my guess would be April. A Quagsire guess is March. I would go with a Quagsire. Quagsires are notoriously correct about everything. What do you think of Slavs or Balts for AOM? Both good. I actually would like Slavs to be subdivided in AOM because there's a lot more interesting stuff than just the Slavic monolith, much like I proposed with my Celtic suggestions. I think AoT DLC will be released just before MEM's Warlords. That would be interesting. Do you talk about Zulu in AoE 2? I think there's Zulu are much better for AoE 3, but there are other kind of like southern African civilizations that you could consider instead for AoE 2. Did you really talk about campaigns for the Jurchens and the Manchurian Legacy build? I did, but it was brief. Thing about Zulu and AoE 2 is that during that time period they wouldn't be recognizable as anything Zulu. Yes, I fully agree. And that's why I think you would want to focus on different southern African civilizations. Did you mention Taizong for the Jurchens? Yes, there's a bajillion Chinese emperors called Taizong, which is annoying. There's like a trillion of them. So I'd say, when you were talking about the many Taizongs, you have to be specific. In this case, for the Taizong I want to see is the Taizong who led the Tang dynasty and was its second emperor, I believe. Taizong is certainly a must-have for the Chinese, but I wonder if they won't go for the Ming Dynasty rather than Tang or Song. I wouldn't be surprised. Ming is closer. It has more gunpowder. It's kind of cool. But the Tang, I think, are the least likely. The Song, I believe, are the most likely because they are the ones that most directly interacted with the Tanguts, the Xixia, and the Jurchens of the Jin Dynasty. And so that feels like the proper focus to me. And unfortunately, I just don't know enough about the Song Dynasty. Okay. Swahilis would be great. Would Khitans work as an archer and cavalry archer civilization? I would prefer to see the Khitans as kind of a varied civilization that can adapt themselves very readily, with a minor focus probably on, maybe archers, cavalry archers. I'd like to see them being adaptable, though. Would Return of Rome style of DLC, but for porting AoE3 into AoE2, be funny? It would be... Okay, Megas would hate that, I am sure. But I think... if I wasn't so butthurt about AoE3, I would actually kind of think that was cool. Maybe just to, like, see how it worked. Because I do really think the AoE2 engine is fantastic. Yeah, mega cursed. And I hope it doesn't happen. Yeah, pretty much, but... I hope it doesn't happen officially. I hope we see a couple mods that kind of dabble into it. Like the Portuguese Civ mod that I did a video on a little ways back. Maybe they could go with Zheng He. That's not a bad pick, honestly. I think that... Didn't Zheng He make an appearance in Age of Empires 3 for some godforsaken bloody reason? Zheng He could be cool, but... Yeah, he didn't do a lot of fighting. Well, he kind of did. He was an admiral. But, like, his big explory thing would be maybe a little forced. I could maybe see it. I wouldn't want that to be the official Chinese campaign, just because Zheng He is, like, so separate in terms of, like, what he's famous for than a lot of other Chinese stuff. Zimbabwe had trade routes that connected to China. That's the best candidate for that half the continent. Well, yeah, you'd have to look at there's a... Shit, I'm not remembering my Southern African, like, ethnicities off the top of my head. But there's a couple there that I think are options, routing through the Swahili to connect to the rest of the world. Just play AoE3, guys. Really, it's good. Exactly. Oh, Lord. Maybe they can have Zheng He for the Chinese campaign. I hope they don't. I hope if they have Zheng He, I hope they have him as, like, a separate thing. Because I don't think he would do a good job of representing the Chinese medieval civilization. He's, like, his own thing. He does his own thing. Dali, Tubo, Siamese for Chinese DLC part. Yeah, that would be sick. I mean, Siamese are, of course, not Chinese, nor are Tubo. Dali arguably is, but, like, they're all China adjacent. I think that would be awesome. You can get the Paharis in there for the Nepalese. There's tons of options out in East Asia that are completely unexplored, which is part of the reason why I'm so happy this DLC is getting out there. Shona are the ones from Zimbabwe. Thank you, I'm dumb. Didn't you mention Zheng He for your campaign DLC predictions? Yes, but that was not as a campaign that represented the Chinese through a DLC. That was like follow this cool dude as he does cool dude things, and is nominally Chinese. I'd also like to see the Filipino and Sinhalese as civs too. Asia has too many notable civs to add at this point. It really does. Sinhalese for sure. Filipino, I actually think they could be subdivided because the Philippines were not unified during the AoE2 timeframe. Siamese and Thai the same. Nominally, you could say there are, like, some distinctions. For example, the Thai could cast a broader net over the Lana people as well, whereas the Siamese would be more specifically Ayutthaya. But I of course, we need to have something from Thailand. It's ridiculous we don't have one. Current Viet campaign is a huge insult to my history. That's why we stick to AoE 1. Oh my god. Yeah. The Viet campaign, I remember when I first played it, I was, like, not super impressed. It was, like, kind of challenging at the very least. But in terms of its historical authenticity, I can neither confirm nor deny. If you're saying it's bad, I fully believe you. And before we get a Lu Bu campaign, please no. Oh god. Jimenez here, great to see you. Song Dynasty has incredibly cool mining, had incredible coal mining capability. How about you translate that as an eco-bonus? That's so cool, I had no idea. Let me think about that. Maybe, okay, this is, like, the most basic bitch approach, but mining stone generates wood. That's how you would probably do that. But I think that there's cooler ways to do it. That's just the, like, easy way to do it that came to my mind first. God, I want to see this the Song as a specific civilization so badly. All of the like, Tang, Song, Ming, all deserve their own civilizations. Obviously, I would say that. Even my AoE3 Filipino Civ says Chumbeke is mostly a hodgepodge of a myriad different peoples. Yeah, it's hard not to do stuff like that. I just like to be as specific as I can, and at least with AoE3, you mentioned that after Spanish colonial rule, they started to kind of like congeal together and form like a more coherent identity. So I think that totally merits them being one. Shan and Lao are Thai as well. Yes, they are. Though I do think that the Shan could be their own civilization. What about Navarrese? Absolutely. There's a huge list of stuff I want to get to, guys. Just about having time. It's so bad. Even our education website don't recommend it for a history lesson. Brutal. Absolutely, imagine that. Oh God. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see a Vietnamese campaign update or a secondary one. I would love to see that. Not to mention seeing some talented modders who actually know their shit going in and making it for themselves. What about the Yuan? I don't think the Yuan are quite as necessary because, well, I would like to see it, but I don't think they're quite as necessary because the current Mongols is like a bastardization between the Yuan and like the pre-conquest Mongols. So if they like separated them out and made them a little cleaner, I'd be more okay with it. Would be nice to see North American civs in AoE2. Yes, it's a topic that has often come up. It's something that I'm still kind of middling about. I think it's possible, and I've definitely done builds on it, and I intend to do more builds on it, but it's not something I think is quite as high a priority just because of how separate North America was from the rest of the world up until the very, very end of the AoE2 timeframe. I would still love to see it, though. Bassi or Philadelphia, or any other number of talented modders. Soviet Gospod when? Soon, my friend. Soon. I will get to it, I promise. Other questions from you guys, other topics you want to discuss. I'm going to hang out here for another 15 minutes or so. I kind of want them to do Antarctica as a joke civilization. Yeah, I've heard many people discuss that one. It sounds fun. Since we have Vietnamese fans here, what do you think of a Trung Sisters, probably butchered that, campaign for the Lac Viet? I can neither confirm nor deny. I know nothing about Vietnamese history. I wish I did, but it sounds pretty cool, and I'd love to hear what people who know better think. What do you really like and dislike about the Vietnamese civilization? My main issue with the Vietnamese civilization is I find it to be somewhat generic. It, to me, doesn't feel nearly as vibrant as civs like the Khmer or the Malay that came alongside it in the Rise of the Rajas. I will say, though, of all of the Rise of the Rajas civilizations, it is my second favorite to play. Mostly because I like archer civilizations with eco boosts. I'm a simple guy. I think popularity is a huge reason for DLC sales, so I am surprised that the devs didn't release more update for European, Britain, and most Germanic civilizations. No, like, I think that there's so much of the world map that's yet to be filled in that even like East Asia is still going to have a good amount of excitement behind it, as with things like Africa and Mesoamerica, maybe even more Europe, because whenever we get more Europe, we get people saying, enough with the Europe already, which is, a perfectly valid opinion to hold. I happen to like when we get civs from anywhere, but Europe is lower on my list right now than other parts of the world. Slavic AOM like Bulgarians and Polish, or Baltic like Lithuanians and Prussian. Well, I mentioned that earlier, Prox. I think that Balts and Slavs I would love to see in AOM, but I'd actually like to see especially the Slavs subdivided somewhat to get more different elements of their cultures in there. Trung Sister, just overrated. Might be a bit too early and outside the AoE 2 time frame. I believe that was mentioned for an AoE 1 campaign, but if they're overrated, then there you go. Hello, bro. Good to see you, Yavik. Too bad the Vietnamese had no eco boost when they first released. Yes, I fully agree. I was asking for a return of Rome to ever come back to it. Nice, yeah. The Vietnamese were really rough when they first released. Although I have always quite enjoyed the Malay. In their early state, they were quite jank, but quite fun. They have been one of... I'd say the Malay are a top 3 civilization for me in the history of AoE 2, just because I find their playstyle really fun. There's a mod for AOC called Realms that did a way better Viet Civ, though the mod itself is pretty jank. There you go. Modders coming to the rescue again. It'd be cool to see a late gunpowder civilization that have wheelock firearms. Totally. I'll take civilization from anywhere as long as they are somewhat accurate and fun to play. Goated take. Change the campaign to the invasion of Vietnam by the Mongol Empire. I agree. That's a really cool topic I know a bit about. Anyone think of Vietnamese having Southeast Asian architecture and Rise of Rajas, but then getting East Asian? They are more Sinicized than a lot of other Southeast Asian civilizations, so I see the point, even though obviously the Current East Asian architecture is Japanese in nature, so it doesn't make sense. If they had like a proper Chinese architecture with other Chinese civilizations, I think that would be more acceptable. What should be the focus for Vietnam and AoE3? Oh God, I have no idea. It's completely out of my wheelhouse. How do you feel about the constant addition of civs to Age? Well, I think there's still a lot of possible additions. I feel that a Chronicles approach might be better for the long run. I am a maximalist. I think that the more civilizations, the better. I think that the game can support a arbitrarily large number of civilizations and will still be not only completely playable, but still be abundantly doable to balance. You look at other games that have massive rosters, they do it just fine. And Age of Empires civilizations are more similar to each other than, for example, Super Smash Bros. Characters are to each other. So I think that the game can handle an abundance of civilizations. And my issue with Chronicles is mostly the lack of value that it provides compared to the cost. Yes, it has beautiful production quality. Yes, I've heard the campaigns themselves are good. Like, not amazing, not bad by any means, but good. It gives modder assets, which is great. But my main issue is how separated it feels from the rest of the game. And if they intend on doing further Chronicles-style content, I'd like them to return to the proper medieval time frame, such that if we are going to skip sections of the world that we really deserve to get, at least give them to us as Chronicles civilizations that people can play in single player, and also create modding assets for and similar. Additionally, I believe Chronicles civilizations increase the much touted civ cap that people say prevents modders from adding new civilizations to the game, which I believe is partially true and partially fake, and people said, oh, it's hard-coded, even the devs can't add more civs than 50. Haha. No, that's dumb. Of course not. But I think that it would increase the number of civs that can be added in total overhaul mods and similar, which I consider to be some amount of value. Let's see, yeah. So that's what I'd say. I'd say I'd love to see many more official civilizations to come, and if we see more Chronicles, I'd like it to refocus on the AoE2 timeframe before dabbling elsewhere. Finnic or Hungarian Magyar's AOM would be unexpected. I think that could be cool. I hate the AoE3 timeline. I wish the AoE3 timeline were a little tighter too. I think it would be perfect if it was like 1600 to like 1750s-ish. There was so much that happened then. We don't need America yet. Let that be another one. Let that be a different game. It would be. I would love to see like some things like the 30 Years' War in Europe. God, that would be so cool. But no, we get going overseas. Man, there's missed opportunity in my opinion, at least. Viet are Sino-culture, but in Southeast Asia. Yeah, exactly. Happy with the content. Will there be videos about Eastern European civilizations? 100%. It's just a matter of time and when. Malay was your favorite in Rajas. Yes, as well as one of my favorite civilizations to play in all of AoE2. What civ would you like the most to be added to Age of Mythology? Which one would I like the most? That's very different from which one I think is the most likely. The one I would like the most would be the Irish. Not Gaels, not Celts, Irish. Specifically a pagan Irish civilization, pre-Milesian conquest, pre-Christianization. That is what I personally would like the most. I think that would be amazing. Vietnamese have 3 civilizations, but it's a long shot. Yeah, I've actually heard that you can split them up. The Cham, I didn't know that. Are the Cham Vietnamese? I believe they're actually more separate than that. What do you think about a Han, Min, Yue, Wu split? I would like to see it, though I think it would be a challenging one. I think what would be more likely is to do a dynastic split for Chinese, hence why I did the Tanrun. But I think that there is possibility for Chinese split well beyond that, like a proper Chinese split, not just like the Jurchens ruled China, so they're China. No, like actual proper Chinese split. I believe there is potential even beyond the 3 big dynasties. Can't you already interact with the Chronicle civs with the main game in mods? Yes, and in single player, but since ranked seems to be such a huge focus for AoE2, it does feel like a lack of value. I think outside of the multiplayer of AoE2, it's good to have more casual fan of AoE2 who enjoy campaign and AI battle. I would agree with you there. It's just a matter of ensuring that they aren't charged too much for the pleasure, right? Because at the end of the day, think about the amount of time, like value you get in terms of time played and time enjoyed versus the amount of money paid. for something like Chronicles, it is a single campaign, and then maybe you goof around with your friends in like casual multiplayer with the Chronicles civs, or you do some like random maps or do some modding. I'd say on average for 10 buckaroons, you're probably going to get, at a guess, a really generous guess, 10 hours of high quality content. Maybe for some people it'd be way higher, maybe for some people it'd be lower. To me, that's not enough value. I'd like to see more. That is the way I purchase games. Though admittedly I'm a major cheapskate, and I have a very high standard for what value I expect out of a game before I will pay a cent for it. If the Koreans don't have a nest of bees, you know I'm going to ride. Same. Malay are fun, but they should definitely be split. Fully agreed. Hungarians in Age of Empires 3 sounds pretty cool. Cham were both Malay and Vietnamese in Surya Vardaman. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't the Cham, what is the damn term for it? Like Pacific, like related more to the Pacific Islanders. I could be wrong about that, but I remember hearing that somewhere. And they're like a bridge between Southeast Asia and elsewhere. Or like a remnant. I'm not sure, but I know that they are a really interesting like civilization that deserves to be independently represented. I'd say balancing AoE2 with numerous civs is possible, as long as it doesn't go the way of World of Warships. Yeah, I think we can do better than World of Warships. Again, we can strive for to be like games like fighting games with massive rosters, like MOBA games with massive rosters. Yeah, sure, you're going to have some like characters who are butt monkeys and who never do well, but overall those games are very well balanced and they can become better over time quite readily. So I think that this is a doable problem, and people saying, oh, the game becomes impossible to balance once you hit an arbitrary number of civilizations are objectively wrong. Objectively wrong. Let's see. Yes, I have seen that polyglot guy speak. It's so cool. I love to see that sort of stuff. I love polyglot content on YouTube, although I am trying to cut back on my YouTube watching these days. If Hungarians are an AoE3, I want Czechoslovakia. Austronesian. Thank you. That's the frickin' word, Austronesian. There you go. Fight me, the timeline barely even matters anyways for AoE3. Yeah. If AoE stopped at 1830, I think it would be fine. I'd personally cut it a little earlier and maybe have a follow-up that brought us from, like, America independence to, like, late Victorian sort of dealio. Maybe. In Bayanang, the Rakhine were Malay. Rakhine totally deserve to be their own civilization. They're also, I think, much closer to Bengalis. Were the Rakhine... so the Rakhine are or the Arakan is another name for them, I believe, are a civilization kind of postured right between what we know as kind of like Indochina, Southeast Asia, and India proper. So kind of where, like, near where Burma is. I believe they're actually a border, like, people to the Burmese. And I believe they are referenced even directly on the current Bengalis, and totally deserve to be their own civilization. They are super duper cool. I wish I knew more about them to share with you beyond that they deserve to be their own civilization, and if they are to be represented in game, they should be represented either by the Burmese or the Bengalis, both of which are a stretch. Scotland not being a revolution choice for Britain in AoE3 is criminal. I agree. The Jacobites would be pretty sick. Hungarians are in AoE3 just as a revolution. Oh, that's interesting. Since there's been a lot of talk about Southeast Asia, I'm contractually obligated to bring up the Mon. Fully agree. Cham are different from Vietnamese, but they live down south and influenced by Indo-culture. They got invaded and integrated with Vietnamese society. Yeah, exactly. But during the AoE2 time frame, they totally deserve to have their own independent representation. Scots doesn't work for a revolution. If anything, the Scots were a complete separate kingdom until the Darien Siege. That is true. I think that it depends on how you are looking at the AoE3 time frame and what a revolution is meant to represent. Given that the AoE3 time frame is like a little late for my personal taste, yeah, I guess you could maybe argue it, especially if you want to be like no, we're going to be independent again, God damn it, sort of Scot, which is fun. But I think that, yeah, seeing Scotland as an independent civ would be pretty sick as well, just saying. As is the case for AoE2, of course, rather than the Celts. Please. Fake trailer for AoE4 that references World War I and II. That's hilarious. The AoE time frame is ridiculous and stupid, and I hate it. Fully agree with that. Yeah. AoE 2 time frame currently, I have it set as about 400 AD to 1600 AD, with some wiggle. It is completely moronic, and I think that the AoE 2 time frame should be 3 different games, if I had my way. Yeah, because there's no feasible way that you can represent that enormous span of time in any sort of authentic manner. Though again, I love the game. I'm very nostalgic for it. This is just me speaking as a designer from a more like aesthetic perspective. Scotland forever. Should you break up the Celt and replace it with the Scot, or just add Scot as a new civilization? Break up the Celt for sure. I had a couple videos talking about how I would suggest Scot, Irish, Welsh civilizations, and I believe that there are, at a stretch, as many as like 6 more that you could also add on top of those. But I think there's like 2 or 3 more I'm like very confident in that I would love to see as like additional Celt subsplits. Because again, yeah, Celts was like terrible civ name for AoE 2. Even if the devs were like, oh, we want to use these kind of umbrella terms representing barbarian peoples, Gales, call them fucking Gales, not Celts. Yeah, I don't even know if Celt was a term that would have even been used during the medieval era. Maybe it was, but I don't think it would have been widely. I think Gales would have been the one that people would mostly say. So yeah, that's opinion me, but I think it's a very objective opinion here. Welsh and English, what should they have both longbowmen? Yes, Welsh should be absolute. Longbows should absolutely be a regional unit for both the English and the Welsh. With the Welsh, I proposed getting a precursor upgrade to them as well. Remember that poster? AoE4 was the 2 world wars, and AoE5 is the future. Britain should just be renamed to English. Yes, fully agree. How do you feel about AoE2 set in Industrial Revolution? Honestly, after like, for me personally, after the age of like block infantry, musket warfare, pike and shot, like cuirassier cavalry charges, my interest just plunges off a cliff. I have very little interest in modern warfare or like early modern warfare myself, and I don't think I would even like bother touching upon those games. Do I think they are potentially feasible? Sure, but there's so many other great games out there that already cover modern warfare, like Red Alert and things like that. To bring them to an Age of Empires formula, I think would be rather forced. Kind of like how in Empire Earth, dumb, stupid, cheesy game, yet very memorable and nostalgic though it was. I seem to bring up Empire Earth every stream. In Empire Earth, even in the futuristic ages, your citizens at the beginning of the game would waddle out and like harvest pumpkins for you. No, that's so stupid. Like, that's not how modern economies work, goddammit. So I don't think you can just port the AoE2 formula and have it always work. And I think you would have to substantially update the way the game plays and the pacing and the tech progression of it. Yeah, I think that I would not like to see that myself. I think it would a firm cutoff for me is the pike and shot cuirassier charges, musket becoming early rifles sort of stuff. Gales is just Irish and Scots. It excludes all Brythonic Celts. Yes, that's fine. We should have a different civilization for Brythonic Celts. The current Celts kind of excludes all of them by being shit. We got Empire Earth for that. Yes, and Empire Earth is bad, but it is. I mean, okay, it's fun bad, right? It's like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus bad. You know, I love watching garbage sci-fi like original movies. They're really, really fun because they're shit, but they're fun. And Empire Earth is to me the Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus of RTS games. France was sometimes called Gaul even as late as 1000. Really? I actually didn't know that. That's super interesting. Am I stupid to think that the British should break into Britain should break into Anglo-Saxon English? You're not stupid at all. I think there's actually more civilizations that you can get out of them, which I will talk about in future. Hiring the company that specialized in World War II games to make a medieval game is always going to be a massively whack choice. What example is it? What is the company that specializes in World War II games? Am I just dense? I probably know the name. I'm just not thinking of it. Empire Earth villagers to trucks and bulldozers and tractors. Yeah, kind of like that. Red Alert isn't historically accurate. It's the equivalent of describing a Cold War history book after getting high on acid. Yeah, so maybe you go for something that like plays more like games like Red Alert 3 or some of the other modern military games, but in like a more grand strategy style. I'm sure there's ways to do it. I just don't think that the AoE2 formula, the Age of Empires formula, works. Do you think they may stop adding civilizations once they hit 50? Maybe. I hope not, but maybe. Seems possible. Mike Empires did a series before where Vader took over the media. Oh, God. Oh, Relic, the people who made AoE4. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was weird. And that's, to me, AoE4 is the game in the series I'm by far and away least interested in, including AoE1. Not only is it a rehash of the medieval era, admittedly of a more specific time frame, but still a rehash. But it just feels like bad StarCraft, and that's like a very harsh way of putting it, but I just really dislike the way the game plays. I really do. And I know a lot of people love it. It's certainly quite a popular game. I just have negative interest in it, especially with the rug pull on, oh, it's historically accurate, guys. Joan of Arc with hand cannon. Oh, don't worry, this is the authentic one, guys. Frickin', like, had to rename half of the variant civs because they were all hot nonsense. Oh, don't worry, guys, this is the immersive one. Campaigns are absolute hot dog shit on release, and I don't know if they're any better. There's some parts of the game I like. Don't get me wrong. But, God, I was very frustrated with it. Let's be fair, World War I and II would be rise of superpowers, not empires. So it does make sense to cut AoE time frame at, like, late 19th century. Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. The game's Stronghold, Saxon warriors were units for the evil side. Why is there an evil side in a historical game? That doesn't make sense. I didn't know a Relic could do that. They will stop banning civs once the game stops being profitable. A Quagsire, once again, coming in with the objectively correct take. We have an AoE2 spinoff in the Star Wars universe. How is it called? That would be Galactic Battlegrounds, and it is cool. All right, friendos, I say we're going to wrap up in the next couple minutes. Any final questions or thoughts you want to hear from me on, I'd love to share with you. But while those are coming in, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. It's been great to catch up with you all. Again, I apologize for the lack of content, relatively speaking. I've been working on my own game, Enclave. But I still am holding to at least one vid a month, and future months are going to be less low effort than last one, where I just did a crappy little teaser review. But I hope it was still a fun video. It seems as though people liked it in the comments. And yeah, if you want to submit builds for the build of the month for my next stream in April, please send them to me via Discord or email or whatever you would like, and I'd love to take a look at them. To take a look at the final comments, 20th century age of the end of empires would be hell of a marketing tagline. Okay, maybe. That does sound kind of cool. Oh, just an RTS, I thought, not a historical game. Oh, in that case, why do they have Saxons in it? That's weird. Can Italy break into 3 civilizations? I think Italy should break into much more than 3 civilizations. And yes, the current Sicilians are ridiculous. They are not Sicilian, they are Norman. I'd like the Normans to be properly Norman, and the Sicilians to be properly Sicilian. Thank you very much. Great to see you too, Jimenez. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Thank you too, Sturmegio. It's been great to see you guys. Evil, Saxon, and Stronghold legends are the enemies of King Arthur. That's so goofy. I mean, sure, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But, yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it? Dumb. But if it works for the story, I'm not gonna knock it. If it's like properly fantastical. When do you think you will post this month? I'm not sure. I'm hoping not the literal last Friday of the month, but what we're going to be working on. I got a big. Okay, I'll give slight spoilies. I got one big build that I've been working on for literal months, with a collaborator who really knows their shit. And 2, I have the contest winners. I'm going to be doing videos for both of them, currently working on those. There's a couple others I am considering as well. There's an AoE2 build that I'm doing with a collaborator that is like yet to like really get into the spin of things, but once it does, I'm going to put that out. Overall, we have options. And there's a chance, if I end up doing like the viewer contest winner ones, I'm going to put out 2 videos either this month or the next. Because I want to get like a full build to you guys at least by April. Have a great day to you too. Thank you for watching the stream. I really appreciate it. I'm glad it was a good stream for you guys. Have a wonderful day to you all. And as always, my name is Robbie Howell. And ciao for now. Goodbye, everybody.